Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Unscripted. Today, I am with the CEO of Leon Speakers, Noah Kaplan. Noah, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me here, Nathan.
Hey, we met last week for the first time. Thanks for spending some time with me and walking me through your facility. In fact, I think my favorite part was when you decided to turn that really large table saw on, which if you didn't notice, I was kind of drooling. The inner carpenter in me, which is really terrible
Yeah.
actually, but the inner carpenter in me was like screaming, this is awesome. But I wasn't sure what you were going to show me. But now I know, right? So you took that little piece of wood, you ran it through the sawmill, and then it was the smoothest cut I've ever seen. And I can't fit that in my garage, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is a big table. That is a big table saw. I became very spoiled by that kind of equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I haven't worked in the factory for over 10 years, I did work in the factory for almost 15 years at the beginning of Leon Speakers and got to work on all those machines. Still like to use them on the weekends. They don't like to see me touching it during the week, though. I interfere with them.
I can see why that could be an issue. So give our audience a quick introduction, and I'll actually go ahead and ask you the first question while you're at it.
Sure.
Because you start off as an artist, and if I might say, an amazing artist. I've seen some of your work.
Thanks.
It's really phenomenal. But then speakers, right? It's just interesting. Like, you were in New York, then you came to Michigan, but
Yeah.
how did you make this transition? So tell us a little bit about yourself and then the transition.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was definitely a really interesting journey that got me to where I am today, and completely unexpected. Of course, I did not plan on this. I was a lifetime artist. I always really loved doing art for as long as I can remember. And part of that, I was always powered by music, I would say, in the background, because art can sometimes be very lonely, very solemn. And as Nathan, I'm a complete extrovert. So being alone for all that time while I was working on art made it really important to me to have that energy, the vibration that music brings. So went to art school at University of Michigan. I also studied a lot about design. There I learned a lot about craftsmanship, materiality, different kinds of mediums to work with. And I actually got my first job from the university right out of college, which kept me in Michigan, which kind of led to this bizarre story that became Leon Speakers. Me and two business partners, when everyone else left and graduated, I was here. And the people that were left behind were actually the artists and musicians. Ann Arbor at that time was a really good place for musicians and artists to be. The rents were much lower than they are today.
Of course.
So we actually started our first little wood shop in my college house, my senior year house on East University in Ann Arbor. The original Leon Speaker factory was actually in a very small carpeted room. It is a true startup story. But my introduction to audio really always came from the listening side. And I also started playing music later in my life. And music was twofold for me. It was, number one, this meta social life that I loved writing songs. I loved being around music. I always was listening. I'm an obsessed music listener. I always was playing with the stereo equipment. And as much of a music listener as I was, I really became interested in like how sound affects us. Now, I wasn't really thinking about that at the time, but sound was definitely affecting me and influencing all of my art. In fact, as a musician, I started doing live painting with the bands I was playing with at the time. So I was always like meshing these two things together. But working with the musicians, we started just combining and collaborating, and we met some amazing characters. One of them was an engineer who had worked with Amir Bose, who was in Ann Arbor with us. Mm-hmm. And when we all started mixing these things together, this is musicians, engineers, artists, and just even philosophers and writers, we were all there. We created kind of a studio vibe, and we started creating things. One of them was a pirate radio station that came off the roof of the building. So, yeah.
That's great.
The 30-foot antenna, FCC, not loving it. But we managed to really start building studio monitors for ourselves. We were looking for studio monitors for playback and recording music. We just all really liked building things, and we were definitely a counterculture group. Like, we weren't going out and getting real jobs. I was already a full-time artist, so I had this great gig with the U, painting portraits and drawing portraits for them, which really kept me in a long-term position because there's always over 40 portraits that I was going to execute over the next 18 months. Yeah, it was a pretty cool day job. But what happens at night, right? I needed something to do. So music really became a big part of my social life. So not only listening to music now, creating products that are for recording music, and then also just jamming with my friends at night. And what I love about collaborative arts in general is they all start speaking to each other.
Yeah.
So at that time, the artists, and you think about album covers, how much do album covers become a part of your early life?
Hmm.
Just reading through them, seeing what the vibrations of the art are, and really what defines the modern times. And so as I kept working on the whole scene, this really bizarre kernel called Leon Speakers
Yeah.
started to form. And it was a group of three of us, me and two business partners. And we really started leaning into why are we creating products? Why are the products of our time boring? They all, at this time, this is mid 90s, late 90s, the products had really, we thought, lost their soul.
Yeah.
So even when we were looking for something cool, like the earlier products from the 80s, 70s, 60s, there was really nothing that we thought was that interesting. So we started building out of solid hardwoods and started taking an approach towards building speakers that's a lot more like building an instrument.
Right.
So, yeah, but I would say these things all swirl together for me. An artist to music, I think they really are complementary. One is visual, and one is all about sound. So the vision for Leon Speakers has always been about mixing art with audio and design with technology. And to this day, our vision is still all about mixing art with audio and
Yeah.
design with technology. And this because you've been at our space. But business in Bohemia is the background of Leon Speakers
Oh
also,
yeah.
which is why to this day, like yesterday, we had a live artist recording. Phosphorescent was here recording live at the
That's
loft.
awesome.
We really still like to be steeped and living in that studio life the same way we did over 25 years ago.
It's interesting to me that you've gone from being an artist to building these beautiful speakers. I like how you framed you wanted to build a speaker like an instrument, because I have acoustics back there that
Step
very
back.
sensitive. Yeah, and they're very
Yeah.
sensitive, right? Like humidity. I have like humidifiers everywhere
Mhm.
during the winter, especially in North America, because you don't want these tone woods to go bad, but that makes the sound, especially with the guitar. And you've done the same concept with the speaker. And so I thought it was interesting that when you started, you were doing a lot of custom projects, right? And actually, you're still
Yeah.
doing a lot of custom projects.
Yep.
But I think you accidentally stumbled upon the soundbar, which I thought was incredible because you've had it for 20 years and everyone knows, oh, soundbars are new. No, you guys, I think created the category. You probably didn't trademark it, but
We did not.
it's, but it's,
We
but
would
it's
have
so
been in a
cool.
much different seat right now if I had. But going back to something you just said, which struck a chord, pun not intended. I'm sorry about that. We're
Right.
seeing the Gibsons and the Martins and all these instruments, the things we were playing, they have such character.
Hmm.
You go to a guitar shop and you could play, and each a Fender has a specific sound, a Fender amplifier has a specific sound, the era, right? And even what it looks like. You think about the classic Fender Tweed
Hmm.
or what a Vox amplifier looks like. These are the things that were really driving us. These are the things motivating us. Like, how do you create character and tonality out of a speaker?
Yeah.
Right? Because it has a feeling, it has a vibration for sure. And it is a playback. So when you think about the path of a signal from when you're writing a song all the way to recording it and then playback, you want to maintain some kind of character, some kind of soul.
Yeah.
And so bringing that forward was always important to us. Now, the original products we designed, which were studio monitors, and are and the next product we designed, we tried to patent a product called Picture Sound,
Okay.
which was a flat panel speaker with art on it. That was the complete amalgamation of all the things we were working on: flat panel technology for speakers, art. We were literally silk screening the covers and high end woodworking. So we were still using the same core elements of Leon, even back then in our early 20s. What's interesting is when we brought that to New York, that concept was completely rejected in New York
Oh.
City. So when I would go to places like Sounds by Singer or Lyric Hi-Fi or all these early shops, they would they were really into hi-fi still, two-channel stereo audio. The flat panel TV was just entering the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so while a lot of the core audio dealers were saying, no, that's insane. I do not want these art speakers anywhere near us. One or two of the dealers definitely saw that there was a trend happening as the TV was going on the wall. Um, One dealer specifically said, I see what you're doing. These art speakers, not into it. But if you can make a speaker that could complement the flat screen TV, and at the time it was the Pioneer 505, I still remember it because
Hmm.
we had to literally go back to our tiny little shop in Ann Arbor and completely scrapped the original idea that we wanted to bring to market. That's an important key element, I think, of art in general,
Yeah.
which is not to hold on too tightly to any of your ideas. I still don't. I like to change. I like to collaborate with other people. Just like music, this era is much different than it used to be. And so I think while they still help define each other, I think it's really important to stay flexible when it comes to design, especially now with how fast technology changes. So we went back to Ann Arbor. We changed the whole format of the shop. We scrapped the picture sound and sound sculpture concepts, and we started building speakers to perfectly match that flat panel TV. And at the time, the flat panel TVs were extraordinarily expensive.
I remember.
You know, they were twenty to $50,000, and so they were really pushing quickly into the luxury market. So we wanted the speakers to literally blend perfectly with the television, and that's when I started getting really involved in wondering about how television audio was recorded. How was television different? How was the movies recorded? So I actually was in LA. I was doing storyboard art. I was working with directors at the time. I was making rap videos with my friends.
Wow.
And yeah, I was learning behind the scenes, like, oh my God, stereo, the way we're recording music is much different than how they're recording TV and movie. And so I started to learn about how signal processing and how amplifiers work and how 5.1 stereo systems at that time worked, where and learning about this the center channel where all the dialogue comes from. So a lot of what we had learned from creating studio monitors was completely applicable towards TV and film. The other thing I started studying was what do TVs look like? Because we were going into New York City and replacing these gigantic CRT tube TVs. When I say we, the dealers were replacing them, and they were these beautiful wooden cases.
Mm-hmm.
They all had like fabric, they had real wood, they were gigantic, they were built into enormous entertainment systems, hysterical. And when we started replacing them with the flat screen TVs, even the speakers that were meant to be on the side at that point, which we had basically we re-engineered our studio monitors to be lean and thin. We made them match on the sides. We used the same air volume, the same high-end drivers that we still use today. And those designs weren't necessarily fitting in yet because those TVs are at a completely different aspect ratio than the TVs of the past. So TVs of the past were at a 3:4 aspect ratio, which is absolutely based on film, into a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is made up. It's a new thing. It's a more cinematic approach.
Yeah.
And so what was happening in the old built-ins, there would be room underneath the TVs for some kind of solution, some kind of speaker. So I remember the conversation, a dealer called me, he had taken out this exact thing happened, taken out one of the large CRT TVs in a super high-end apartment, and he had this space under the TV, and he said, this customer is super aesthetically driven, what can we do in this situation? And I went to our team of engineers, which was very small at the time. I said, hey, what if we just made one single bar that would have all the channels of speakers? Because I knew the center channel was so important. I'd also studied all the history of TV, dating back all the way from its beginnings in the 1930s. And TVs used to have built-in sound bars. You look at the early TVs and they look beautiful and the sound was attached. So I was already imagining this reality. And then the engineer says, yeah, I don't see why we can't do that, especially because when you're looking at TV, the two speakers on the sides work perfectly. When you're watching a movie, now you're engaging mostly the center channel. And this is where we formed our early concept called direct source audio, which means really simply put the speakers where the voice is coming from. It makes it drives what makes sense for us right now, even in the conference room.
What a
really
novel
bizarre
concept, right? Like center channels for everything else. And that's, yeah, you're right. Video has moved in that direction. It really has.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just listening was always so critical to when I was traveling around to the stores. I didn't actually even understand the stores. I don't even think I knew how to invoice after we built something for the stores. So this is when, in the early days, we had never raised any money. So it was a completely organic company. So those were the days when we'd be in the wood shop creating the purchase orders, and then I would go on the road and travel and listen to the dealers and really try to understand their needs, understand the needs. And I had no perception of the luxury market, Nathan. I had a house. When I grew up, I had normal things. I did not understand the scale and the scope of the homes we'd be working in. Homes that are 30 to 40,000 square feet really hard to scale your mind up to that, especially in your 20s. So quickly, the dealer started saying, "Is this all you have? I need higher end stuff. I need more output." And that's when we really dug into engineering, really dug into quality. And I really started looking at what those houses were made of.
Sure.
So you look in a house, you're not finding little plastic gadgets from Best Buy. You're seeing complete built-in experiential design. You're seeing, everywhere from the kitchen, everything is framed in. You're not going to see a wire. You're not going to see any technology, all the way down to the trim moldings and the cabinetry. Everything, the detail is immaculate. And so I just started thinking, how do we make something that can fit even remotely with the quality of these homes? And so we always focused on that, materiality being the main word, which is why we build out of hardwoods
Yeah.
and metal and really nice fabrics. And we mill fabrics, we search for fabrics. We like to find the best hardwoods. And we still love to match like the aesthetic of these homes. And as we got into more the office space, same things applied.
Yeah. Now, the office space is interesting, right? Because I feel like prior to the pandemic, there were some people that were going down this path. I think it's called residential, right? You make the office kind
Yeah.
of like the home, but it didn't. It caught on to some bigger companies, but it wasn't everywhere. Then the pandemic happens, and then we're home, and all of a sudden you see personality. Like I'd have people call me like, "I had
Yes.
no idea you play guitar." And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course, they're right behind me. And then, of course, I have a massive love for gadgets, as you can see as well. Luckily, I work for Logitech, right? Because we have lots of gadgets. And you just started learning about, like, they were painters. They were some sort of artists. They were into
Yeah.
pottery. They had 5 cats or 30 cats. Like, whatever it is, you found the personalities. And then in 21, we all went back and we're like, ooh, these 8 by 10 or 10 by 10 or 20 by 20 white boxes with generic tables and generic chairs. If you're lucky, you had a nice chair like a Herman Miller or a Steelcase chair. Like, that
Yeah.
was that was it. There were no
Exactly.
vases, there were no artwork. You're like, this is this
Mhm.
it's ugh, right? And then you come,
Yeah.
right? You guys come into play and now build all these beautiful things around the technology. And there are a lot of people that just don't want to see 19,000 cameras. They want to see these massive TVs.
Yeah.
They want to see a beautiful blended in environment so you can jump into a meeting, have a natural conversation. So that's changing the way you're doing things. I'm curious as to what are you seeing in that space and how are you adapting the entire product line as customers' needs change?
Nathan, you said many things in what you just said are so important to design and to the way people think today.
Yeah.
You brought up personality. Imagine bringing your personality, like we all became very used to showing our personality, our passions when it comes to how we talk face to face. So, I remember realizing at a certain time, because I never used to sit at my computer, not ever. And I realized that the computer had become the modern telephone,
Mm-hmm.
and the telephone had become the modern computer. It was completely switched around. So the spaces that we work in and what they feel like are so important to how we become inspired or how productive we can be as people. And so just like in those luxury homes, I really went out and just looked at what was going on. We got the opportunity to design for some of the biggest and most amazing companies in the world. And even at the largest scale, I'd go to some of the spaces in the corporate environment and they just felt a little scary. They felt like there was a lot of foreign objects. The technology wasn't actually blended in. You could see it all too well. There were no natural materials or even any reflection of the company. So, a cool little story about how we got to our little logo, even the Leon logo, which is a very small elemental part of a Leon. It's a small, it's a small little square. It's but a quarter of an inch, and it's reflective. And part of the vision of Leon is just like music, just like art. These are things that are a reflection of self. And a great business, a great culture is formed by reflecting on what is important or on the values that you bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Nathan, I could tell a lot about you from what I see in the background. I love to see all of your history, all those visuals. They keep me interested. So, like when you go to a meeting and I'm going to these spaces, I'm seeing nothing. It just seems like nothing's going on. They're a little bit sterile. So I'm
Yeah.
like, where's the art? Where's the personality? You show me a plant. Even let's paint a different color.
Even
Let's
even
do
a, even a fake
something
IKEA plant. I actually have
of
some like back
anything,
there.
a thing, an object, anything interesting. And so I feel like a lot of these designs became over designed. And so
Mm-hmm.
for us, from a product level, we're just trying to introduce very simple clean format design. And the reason we choose the materials, like a television on the wall to us is not enough. If you go back, and Nathan, you've been to our studio, the first thing is the 1958 Philco Predicted TV,
Yeah.
which is a complete statement of that time, 1950 design. You could see the atomic influence. You can see mid-century modern coming to light. You see all these different materials. And at the very least, hanging a TV and putting technology around it to us just isn't enough anymore. A lot of people talk about resi commercial. A lot of people talk about earning the commute.
Yeah.
And when you think about earning the commute, I always thought that was really interesting, but it's cool. Hey, what makes people want to show up for you? And I don't think it's something to earn. I think it's something that people desire. They want to be a part of something. The way we're seeing it, even now, our employees came back as soon as they could because we have a culture that is about them and it celebrates them and it celebrates our values. And that's why we like to surround ourselves with objects of inspiration. And we like to surround the TV with materials that make sense and feel natural, things like hardwood. It's why our speakers today do offer different colored grills and different options and artistic options. And at the height of it, full scale sound sculptures that you could bring in that completely combine art and music into one singular unit, one object that has a vibration. So, anyway, I think it's all changing very quickly. And I think it's actually going in this direction. I just see it moving there and I see it moving quickly. I'm into it, is all I'm saying. Anytime we could bring more personality to any space, that's going to be a yes. And I'm a maximalist when it comes to this. I still collect. I'm a freakish collector. I like to always be drawing. I like to have all my stuff around me. So I'm imagining the same for others. And a quick story about that, because I just started asking people, like, how do you feel in this room? When I was going to these companies, and one guy, he was a designer, and he said he felt like he was surrounded by foreign objects. He felt like he couldn't share because the technology was off-putting to him. Like how responsive all the technology was, what he was listening to, it felt foreign.
Yeah.
I talked to another woman who said, I just shut down because I was always worried about the technology working even. So now that we're at a time where the technology might work, now let's add back the personality. Let's add back the vibes. Make things that are cool, right? Let's make things that have personality. So I really appreciate that question.
Yeah, and there's so many ways you can do it. Yes, there's definitely an aesthetic, physical design that needs to come into play. But we're doing things like we have a device that's made for the desktop for hot desking, because as people are redesigning offices, so they don't have permanent spaces. So they come in, they find a desk. But one of the most horrible things that I've encountered over the last 20 years is you get to the office, you find the hot desk, and it's just a desk. You still have to crawl on the floor to find the power strip. You still have to then figure out how to connect to Wi-Fi or Ethernet, whatever. It's just, no one wants to do that. When you come home, everything works. Your internet's super fast. You have access to all the stuff. Of course, unfortunately, also access to the refrigerator, which is not great. There are some goods and bads to remote work. But people want that sense of belonging in the office. And I think design plays a big part of belonging. Furniture plays a big, all these pieces add up to that overall employee satisfaction. Yeah. And design is a big part of it.
I love that. Even here, I started designing products for desktop for that exact reason. Mm-hmm. We have a product called Cove, which is just a simple turnkey object, but it's a complete design object, all about just even the lighting. Because going back to that idea that we're sitting in kind of a phone booth now, right?
Yeah.
That's new. So there's burgeoning design all around new desktop. How do we control the sound when we're always talking to our computers now? We didn't used to do that. That was not the way. And now we find ourselves talking to the screen all the time. So I like to focus design on where you are spending your time. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always thinking about how people spend time. How can we make people's screen time better? I want to make it better in simple ways, with lighting, with better sound, with making it look more beautiful. I don't like to see any wires. Personally, they stress me out. I just unplug. I'm worried about touching them. So I think creating a better experience around the screen, and the stats are crazy when it comes to screens, Nathan.
Yeah.
As Americans now, I believe we spend 6 to 7 hours a day in front of this screen, the computer. And then the average American, some stats show up to 32 hours a week in front of other TV screens. That's almost a full-time job. So if you think about the weekend, 7 days, it's almost a full-time job just hanging out in front of TVs. So I think I'm always thinking about focusing on how can we make that cool? It might be the thing you use more than anything else, right? Outside of your phone. Your screen time on your phone, it's even like we're clocking that now. So if it's all about screen time, I want us to be all about making it better and making it feel less foreign and making it just feel better in general to work.
One of the things I'd say is with the Cove is really interesting is because I've actually bought foam pads and stuck them under my desk. I've got a felt pad to help, drown out the sound. Mine's a little extreme. This is a little extreme where I've actually soundproofed the knee walls because I'm in the attic and the floors.
That's
I think we
cool.
talked about it when I was there.
Yeah.
And I even bought I don't know where it is now. It's somewhere around here. I'm not going to go get it. But I actually got a blue microphone because we own Blue. I got a blue microphone that's suspended on a mount with a complete like a foam pad around it, what they would use like to record your voice for a song or something. I have that all set up because it's important for the audio. Right now, of course, the technology is getting a little bit better with the foam. It helps, but with Cove, you've wrapped the entire inside. I think the exterior too with foam, not with foam. With right.
We use all recycled. It's recycled felt. It's made by turf. Awesome. And just like you were saying, this is that convergence that we're talking about, right? These are things that you and I have learned from being in recording studios. I'm trying to shrink down the technology. Like, we love working with Logitech because the objects are easy to use. They're non-invasive. They work really well. And so like when we created the collaboration between Logitech with Cove to offer a complete creator's package, turnkey, right? Something that everybody could afford. And that's what I like about the home technology really shifting quickly and probably moving faster than corporate. Our corporate business is slow to come back. It is slow to come back because so many spaces are still left empty.
Yeah.
So I think if we could bring a little more of home life to work and a little more work life to home and make these things just a little bit better on both sides, then we'll all feel more connected to each other. And I think ultimately the point of all this technology is to connect and to feel like there's not 1,000 miles between us right now, which I think is the most beautiful part about modern technology, like our ability to hang out and feel natural. And eventually this is normal. I'm working just like I'm working and talking to you like this now. Today I will meet with my architect friends from Colorado. I'm working on a collaborative project in California. We designed entire product lines with people I have never met in Paris. And so like our collaboration, our partners that in Calgary, where we're designing all of our new products, a firm called Mera, we get to work hand in hand, and they just redid their showroom. They put in all these new objects. They helped us design our new products because part of this whole thing about collaboration. So now we're able to use technology to collaborate better, to make better technology. So I feel like we're going in the right direction. I'm just impatient. I'm ready.
I get it.
Whoever, like you, I just want to see it happen. I just want to see it happen. I want to be a part of it. I don't want that to be Leon's legacy, to help bring design and technology together.
I think you're already changing the world with your designs, not only from a technology perspective, and you have that unique ability, I guess your company and yourself has a unique ability to combine really artful design with the craftiness, if you want to call it that, of making beautiful speakers. And I've seen it. I was in awe when I was watching it all. And you guys make a beautiful product. And I do think there's resimercial, yes, on the residential side is there. But we can do so much better with offices. So we're really proud to obviously partner with you guys because you're now combining. I don't think video conferencing is boring per se, but aesthetically, right, we can do better. And I think when you combine it all together into a package that makes it easier for people to feel more comfortable in the rooms. By the way, we've heard that a lot from a lot of people. Just, I'm so uncomfortable with technology, right?
Yeah, they don't. And back to like our conversation about sustainability and sustainability design, that is completely important. The lifetime of we are completely thinking about that on the same terms as Logitech, taking those initiatives also to not only make products better, but to make them better. In other words, what are they made of? How much recycled materials can we use? The Cove uses 100% recycled plastic bottles. That's the reason we chose that material. We chose the plywood because it's sustainable. And you guys are making those same decisions. That will also create products that last longer. So ultimately, even though they might be a little more expensive, they will last a lot longer. All right, we have a lifetime warranty on our stuff. And you were talking about craftiness. I've always just had such a deep appreciation for the patience of craft.
Yeah.
You see the Persian rugs around our office. You see all
Yes.
the silk screens, the painting, all the objects, all the handmade furnishings. It's amazing to me that people can create such beautiful objects. What an incredible time to be alive where we have access to all of this. And when I was young, we had access to none of it.
It's true.
We had to walk around New York City to find the best record store. Like you were walking around the world just looking for things. And I still am doing the same thing, but now you get to see so much more, get so much more influence and learn more really
Yeah.
quick. So I think if we can all work closer on bringing these new, I would say this new ethos to life collectively, then we could really start solving the bigger issues at stake, which we all know what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. We all know
Right?
that for sure.
Yeah. And just create and have a good life.
Yeah. This has been very enlightening. I learned so much from you every time we talk. But one of these days, I'm going to come up there to see one of your live concerts at the Leon Loft. Jeff keeps telling me that I'm going to come play with my band. We'll see how that
Hey,
happens. I don't think we're worthy of
you
your
could
stage, quite
just play,
honestly.
we could jam, we could just play. It could be after hours. It's all good. We got the brewery on site. We got lots of work to do, Nathan.
Yeah,
We could. I
absolutely.
didn't get to show you
Absolutely.
the record player shop. Yeah, let's continue the
Absolutely.
conversation for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Great to see you again. And with that, thanks everyone for joining Noah and myself on this episode of Unscripted. Thanks for joining.